Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. This next interview brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. Thanking Seas fans for another great season at the Nat this summer. If you're looking to guarantee your seat for all the action in 2025, please visit CanadiansBaseball.com or call 604-872-5232. We welcome in the former executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada, the most famous man from Oliver, British Columbia, Mr. John Shannon. How are you?
I am great, boys. How are you?
Fantastic. Our first opportunity to talk to you, John, since Thatcher Demko detailed his obscure injury and said what he had to say about no timeline to get back. And since they signed Kevin Lankinen, ex-Nashville Predators. How are you feeling about the Canucks goaltending situation right now?
Well, if I base it on last night's game, I feel pretty good. I think Artur Sheelops was solid, made some pretty good saves down the stretch, particularly. But I'm not as concerned as others. I mean, I listening to Thatcher talk about it, I think there is a bit of confidence that he will get back at a certain point during the season. And I think this team is good enough to carry through without him until he gets back. And like many teams in the National Hockey League, the regular season is more like an 82 exhibition game series for the Canucks. They will make the playoffs. I just want to know how healthy they are going to be when the playoffs start in April.
Do you have any history following Kevin Lankinen? Do you know anything about the player and confidence level and him being a patchwork?
I don't, Blake. It's funny. I didn't like him in Chicago. But when he got to Nashville and played behind that defense, he seemed to play pretty well. It was probably more strictly a numbers game in Nashville that why he wasn't re-signed. So from that perspective, I think he's a quality National Hockey League goaltender, and the risk for the Canucks is so small, so minimal on a 1 year, basically minimum contract that the moment Demko is healthy, the moment Demko comes back and Lankinen goes on waivers, he'll get picked up. And then there's no problem at all for carrying that extra money for a little bit.
Or, of course, Sheelops can be demoted and you run with Lankinen.
I don't think that's a good move, though. I really
no.
Matt, I don't think that. I think that's the wrong message for someone within the organization. Artur Sheelops has proved himself to me in this short period of time in the playoff run, in his time in Abbotsford, to be a Vancouver Canuck. And I know last week I said it was a business, but there are sometimes you have to reward loyalty, and having Sheelops on this club, on the big club, I think is a great sign of loyalty.
That's going to be interesting because roster management-wise, that's the easiest thing to do when Demko comes back. Even if he's only incrementally better, if he's way better than Lankinen, you're right. I think you probably make the tougher decision. But if he's only incrementally better than Lankinen, gosh, you think they might just use some roster management and kick the can down the road a little bit.
Well, then they're gonna need to be pretty transparent with Artur's.
That's right.
As the season goes on.
Yeah. Honesty, the best policy.
How do you feel about the defense core, John? It's Desharnais and Forbert this year, as opposed to Nikita Zadorov being the big deletion there.
It's big. And I mean, it's hard to imagine that with Zadorov signing in Boston, that the defense would actually get bigger, and it has gotten bigger. Vinny's a fascinating guy. I spent a lot of time with him last couple of years in Edmonton. He's a great teammate. He's not the most mobile guy. He thinks he is, but he's not. He's anybody that would consider that he could play 3-4, I think, is a mistake. He is a 5'6". He will give you his all, and by Christmas time, he will be a fan favorite in Vancouver. Will they miss Zadorov's offense? Yeah, they'll miss Zadorov's offense. But at the same time, some of the liabilities that Nikita had in his own zone will dissipate as well. So I think the defense is probably level to what it was last year at this point if they can stay healthy. And that also, is a compliment to the resurgence of Tyler Myers. Let's face it, 18 months ago, Tyler Myers was supposed to be the odd man out, was supposed to be gone, was not supposed to be a Vancouver Canuck. And under this group of coaches, he has been able to reinvigorate his career and become a vital member of that blue line.
And we'll see what it looks like come the regular season. But I thought he was pretty energized last night in a preseason game at the very least. I don't think he's slowed down necessarily as he gets a little bit older and is on the wrong side of 30.
Well, when you're that big.
Couple strides.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I loved what happened at the end of the second period. It's sending messages not just to the Seattle team, but to your own teammates that you got their back. And I think that's exactly what Myers has to do. I'm not sure he has always used his physical nature that way in his career, wherever he's played. But perhaps that's something he has learned as he does mature as an NHLer.
So if you think the defense is level and not concerned about the goaltending, then it sounds, and you've already said they will make the playoffs, it sounds to me, John, like you think this team is as good as or better than the team that ended last year with Lindholm and Zadorov.
I think as good, yes. I really do. I think that, every year with Rick Tocchet and his staff having their fingerprints on this roster, I think that they can really become a force in the division and in the conference. And I see this is a team that's not taking a step back at all, Matt. It's not. It's a really good hockey club. And I think that the Canucks and the Oilers are going to contend for the top spot in the division. I think they're better than Vegas. And I think that we're going to end up sitting here wondering, and the discussion in March and April, when there's going to be a great playoff matchup in the first or second round, we're going to all start talking about playoff realignment because we don't want the Oilers and the Canucks knocking each other out sooner than later.
So the great question now, though, is what if a young kid shows really well in the preseason? When you're a middling team, when you're a rebuilding team, young kids can make your squad because you ain't got nothing better.
Mm-hmm.
The Canucks, maybe, we'd have to go ancestrally back here, but it's been a long time anyway since the Canucks had winger depth like they've got this year. That's one thing they emphatically remedied from last year. So the last thing they needed was Lekkerimäki to make this team, but he's looking pretty good. If he shows well, does he make the team, or you just say no? We're overcooking this guy. He is going to be the highest leaven, loaf of bread that we've ever created here, or do you give him the reward for the effort in the preseason?
Good teams can over-ripen players, Blake.
Mm-hmm.
Good teams can be patient. And as much as, yes, I think he's been good. By the way, I thought Ratu was really good.
He was very good.
I really enjoyed him last night. When you look at how patient teams can be, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Send him to Abbotsford. Let him mature some more. Be transparent with him. And then when push comes to shove, injuries are going to happen. Injuries are going to be a factor. Somebody is going to get hurt. In addition to the issues like the Joshua situation, there's always going to be something. Do I expect him to start the season in Vancouver? No. Will he be in Vancouver during the season? Absolutely. I think that's the key because, opening night is important for 24 hours. It's the other 81 games after that can make a difference. So I think there's the patience of letting guys over-ripen. And we've seen great teams do this. Tampa did this for a long time. Detroit did it for years. Over-ripen players and get them ready for the National Hockey League when they're a year older, 2 years older, is not a bad thing. And the Canucks and Canuck fans now are at a point where they can be patient too. It's not something that comes in big bushels of time with fans in Vancouver, but now is the time they can be patient and enjoy the ride and watch the growth of these guys in the American League.
John, one of the complications of adding Lankinen is the salary cap for the Canucks. They're looking to accrue space this year. They don't want to be immediately into LTIR. Patrick Alvina said if when you start the season in LTIR, it's dollar in, dollar out. It really impedes your ability to make trades. So they have Tucker Poolman there on a $2.5 million contract, the final year. He's not going to play this year. I sit here, I look at Puckpedia, I see San Jose, Calgary, Anaheim, and Columbus all showing more than 10 million in cap space. And of course, none of us think they're going to do very well, but they may have their own designs. Are you aware of any team that is willing to take on bad money right now, that is already at that stage and is willing to, take on a contract for a player who's going to play if a sweetener's attached?
I guess the question is, is there another manager out there that wants to do Patrick and Jim a favor more than anything else? And the answer is I haven't heard that yet, Matt. I have not heard of anybody. This was always Billy Armstrong's great place in the NHL world. That you could go and get traded to Arizona for a pick. And the other question
Utah wants to be good, though, John.
He looked pretty happy winning the other night.
This year. Yeah, that looked like a fun little crowd the other night.
By the way, just as an aside, did you guys see on NHL.com, did you go and look at the roster of the Utah Hockey Club and then have them list all the scratches? Did you see that by chance?
No.
So it's a bit of a sign of where we are in the season and going with a new franchise. But they listed all the scratches for the Utah Hockey Club. There might have been 50 of them.
Yeah.
And the first name in the scratches, Shea Weber.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to make the team.
No. I can just imagine Shea sitting in Kelowna looking at them saying, holy smokes, what's going on here?
I don't think he'll take the warm-up either. No.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Hey, moving into your wheelhouse here, because as his Twitter bio says, his X bio says, John Shannon is a hockey storyteller, and he has done a great job of that over the last, several decades, as have the people in his charge. Of course, you more often than not butt up against subjects who aren't exactly the most willing or revealing.
What's that, hockey players, you mean?
Yeah. Saw the trailer for this Faceoff reality series on Amazon, John. It is literally behind the curtain, because you have an Oilers trainer who goes and closes the curtain on Connor McDavid as he's having his rant after game 2.
And I am told, by the way, that after that did occur, Connor went to the club and said, please don't do that. We have given these guys access. We're going to give them access.
Good for him.
Well,
if that's the truth. Wow.
And I think this really goes back to the players' buy-in, obviously, but also the players' understanding of what it's done for F1. This is safe production, Greg. Most hockey players are sports fans too, and probably got engaged at some point or another, probably during the pandemic with all the F1 stuff. Was Drive to Survive? Is that the name of it?
Yep.
Sure. And so I think that they realized how everybody's talking about Sunday mornings and watching Grand Prix all over the world, that perhaps on a, not just a North American stage, but a worldwide stage, that there's an opportunity to grow this game. I know that's an awful cliche. That's a cliche that all of us have used and hidden behind for years. But this thing, and with all 6 episodes coming out the first week in October, I think there's going to be an opportunity to have some raised eyebrows and enjoy that. And we all remember on a national television last year watching William Nylander, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner have a bit of a conversation on a bench. Well, we're going to hear what William Nylander and Marner and Matthews said. Watching Connor do what he did in the dressing room after the game and during the intermissions, I think we now understand why Connor did not go out and get the Conn Smythe Trophy. I think there's lots of things that for the hardcore fan that they will just, their eyes will light up. And I hope for a lot of people who are lukewarm on the game, and that's all over the world and in both of our countries, Canada and the United States. I hope that these 6 episodes will be something that we as a game can build on.
Well, I wonder if Connor's got the awareness that at times I think a casual fan might say he doesn't look like he's into it because, he's so stone-faced on the ice. I think in a lot of ways, this can clarify to fans, no, these guys are super intense, and the stone-faced guy is just like that when, out on the ice.
Sure.
He's actually quite animated and cares a shit ton about what's happening out there. So in some ways, I think it can be a bit of a good PR spin for the players. And secondly, I know people click off as soon as they hear HRR, but ultimately there's going to be a payoff here for the fans and that they'll see character. But you're right. If this does well, you wonder if more eyes just brings more HRR, and it's in the players' economic interest, financial interest, to make this a hit, a smash hit.
Well, especially since you have far more material and potential subject matters than they ever had in F1.
Right. And here's the other thing. The list of players that bought in and participated was, a rather small group.
Mm-hmm.
There are 800 players in the National Hockey League, and there are a ton of great stories that never get told because, quite frankly, players are conditioned not to show that side of them. That's not in their DNA, nor is it in the DNA of the game to stand out. I'm one of those guys that has always thought that hockey players react as a team and rarely want to step outside those boundaries. If you can get it naturally without self-promotion, because it's the self-promotion that bothers the piss out of all of us. If you can do it without self-promotion, then you're doing the right thing. And you're gonna see more personality out of the Jack Eichel, who we thought was a spoiled little brat. You're going to see a lot more out of Connor, who we thought, you're right, was very stoic. You're going to see real people play a real game. And I'll tell you what, those of us, and you guys have been close enough to the game, you know how good these people are. And it's listen, this is my 48th year in and around the National Hockey League. 48 years. And I would tell you all, most of the time now, I'm not in it for the game. I'm in it because of the people. And I love the people, and you get to know the people and enjoy the people and be able to tell stories about the people. And this 6-episode series might be a great stepping stone.
Yeah, I hope so.
Might be the best thing that Amazon does of everything they're trying to do
in their package. Yeah. Well, think about that season or the playoff ending montage that Hockey Night is famous for. I think what people love about that, it's a highlight reel, but spliced in there are good emotional moments. And that's all on ice stuff, but that's what moves people, I think, is making people, reminding people of the emotion of the playoffs from day one to game 7, we hope, of a Stanley Cup final. And this is, I hope, going to be keying in on that emotion. And that's that humanity. I think about one of the most famous Canuck posters of all time, John, is that picture of Kirk McLean and Trevor Linden sort of wincing as they put their heads together. Human emotion, not just like, yay, I scored a goal emotion, but actual like kind of pain and
the gamut of emotions.
Yeah, the gamut. And that's the good stuff, right?
Well, I tell you what, the most successful sport in North America is the National Football League. NFL Films lost money for the first 10 years. NFL Films does not make a lot of money for the National Football League, but it serves a great purpose in doing exactly what you talked about, Blake. And then all you do is watch Sunday afternoons now, and all of the networks, and Fox, I think, was the leader of this one. What do they do at the end of the day? They give you the coach's speech or the player's speech in the locker room. Mm-hmm. And people go, wow, I get to see some real stuff. I get to see the players react. I get to see the coach cry. I mean, that's what we have to do.
Powerful stuff.
Yep. Do you sell your soul a little bit? Yeah, you do a little bit. But I'll tell you what, it is worth it. It is worth it when you can get quality content.
It's a worthy transaction.
I mean,
That's
NFL
the
Films
soul.
is a living, breathing archive that celebrates the history of the game, and it works as a promotional vehicle in the here and now. So it was a brilliant concoction. The NHL needs its Ed and Steve Sable, and I nominate you, John Shannon.
What do you make of it? What do you make of the talent otherwise? So you're right. That I think it could be the best thing Amazon does. What do you make of the group that they put together? They've taken a few risks, I think, because I don't think anybody. And I love Shane Knighty. He's been great with us over the years, and I don't know much about Thomas Hickey and the others, but they're not like the biggest brand names in the league just yet.
No, but I know all of those guys. I know Thomas, I know Shane, and I know Jody very well. I think that they are sponges for learning. I think that they have a great understanding of the game. In many ways, because they were Canadians working on regional networks in the United States, they didn't get very much play on a national level in either country. And Shane got a little bit, Jody got a little bit, but I do think that they are, in my opinion, three of the best quote-unquote young up-and-coming analysts that the game has. I think they made a really good choice with all three guys. The fascination for me will be, how do we judge the chemistry of those three when they work together? They won't all work together on the same show. There'll be a combination of the two of them. But I think it's good. I'm thrilled to see Adnan come back home to work on the show. I think Andy has deserved that opportunity. I think they're in pretty good shape. And as a blatant plug for somebody I know very well, they've hired Mark Askin to produce the games. In my career, when I had a big game and needed a big game produced, I pointed the finger at Mark Askin. And I think Mark will be a huge difference maker for Amazon on those Monday night packages with the stories that need to get told.
And look at this. Terrific. Americans are taking over. Jack Michaels has got one of the plum gigs, calling Connor McDavid on a nightly basis, and now John Forsling gets national games here in Canada. Who'd have thought?
Well, it's funny. My first inclination is to say, well, we shouldn't be protecting the play-by-play guy as a Canadian. But then how many years have we seen Canadians go and get jobs in the United States?
Right, yeah.
And you know what? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And John Forsling's a great broadcaster, and John Forsling will create another great following of people across our country.
48 years in, John Shannon covering the National Hockey League. I just turned 48.
But I'm
covering this league as long as I've been alive, Shannon.
I started when I was 4.
And you look great for 52.
Thank you very much.
We'll catch up next Tuesday. Thank you, John.
Cheers.